and Khrushchev, and Khrushchev's messages sound very terse and very angry at first that he wasn't going to remove the missiles. But it just so happened that the UN was in session, and it was at a very tense moment that he asked the ambassador from the Soviet Union to admit there were missiles in Cuba. But at that moment, he made the announcement. Ellie Stevenson was our UN ambassador, that there were missiles in Cuba, which showed the world. So on October the 22nd, President Kennedy established a naval blockade of Cuba only 7 days after the public announcement. And there were a lot of Soviet ships bound for Cuba at that time. And so this blockade, it went on for 2 more days. And the lead ship finally stopped dead in the water before reaching that point. So Khrushchev finally agreed to remove the missiles and the Soviet airplanes. He felt justified somewhat in deploying these missiles, as we had missiles in Turkey that were aimed at Russia. But he had already planned to remove these missiles, but we hadn't done so. So in just a few short weeks, the Soviets had managed to install 24 of SAM missiles. And by this time, the one missile had increased to 4. They had increased 3 more missiles during that 1 week. They had 4 launches at each site, 39 of the latest MiG fighters. They had over 100 of the new fighter planes, and there was a 1,200-man battle group equipped with tanks and battlefield missions. And given more time, they would have assembled an even more formidable force. Several years later, an expert was asked the value of this little piece of film that Ellie Stevenson showed the world that there were missiles in Cuba. And he said, well, of course, it was invaluable, probably worth more than the CIA had ever spent in all their time. So the next thing, in the summer of 1964, my boss, John Jack Ledford, came for a visit at Edwards, and he wanted me to go with him to Area 51. This has been a highly speculated place in the world, Area 51, and the press wondered what goes on there. And so at this time, the SR-71, the Mach 3 airplane, was just beginning the test there at that base. He wanted me to see the base, and he offered me the job on the spot of being the SR-71 operations officer, and it was a job of a lifetime. But 10 days earlier, I had just returned from another long temporary duty, and my wife this time, she was always so supportive, and said, I just don't know how much longer I can tolerate all these separations. I had been gone more than half the time for the past 8.5 years or 9 years, and she just felt like the life was passing her by, and so I had to think about this, and so I thank General Ledford very much, but I eventually turned it down to be with my family. I probably would have gotten another promotion, but it was worth it, and I don't regret my decision. The role of my covert squadron in the Cuban Missile Crisis was never made public. However, actually the CIA deserves credit for their role. You know, they've made so many blunders over the years, but this is one thing that was helpful, that they did good. And my wife was invited to a special permission to attend a ceremony at North Base, where I received another Legion of Merit, making my fourth. And I was also promoted finally to colonel 3 years ahead of when I should have been. And General Marshal Carter also presented me with the CIA Medal of Merit. And my pilots all received the CIA Star Medal. And General President Kennedy also sent a letter of praising the squadron for the work that we had done. And so I was permitted to share the contents of the letter. And my people were really happy that they had made this contribution. So my squadron's role in the Cuban Missile Crisis was never made public. In the CIA medal and letter, they were taken back to Langley, but on October the 17th, in 1975, the mission was finally declassified, and I could at least talk about it then. And so, finally in closing, on October the 17th of 1962, the whole country was just shocked that we had missiles in Cuba. And my family knew about this, and my mother and father knew about this. But they never knew in their lifetime that I had a small role in the Cuban Missile Crisis. Thank you very much.
Gregory.